Leslie Meredith from Breakbulk Events and Media. I'm here today with Steven Spoljaric, known as Spo by most people in our industry. He is the corporate manager of global logistics for EPC firm Bechtel. He's coming to us from Houston. Now, Spo has put together a fantastic session for our upcoming Breakbulk America's digital special, and this is all around technology and remote experts. So we're going to talk to Spo today to just sort of get a feeling, prepare ourselves for this session. So welcome, Spo. It's so great to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. We're excited to get this panel. I know it's going to be a little bit different this year, but will still be hopefully interesting and important topic for people to listen into.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just start off with just some general background. Certainly Bechtel and you leading the way have been in the forefront of technology development and its application in the project field. How has early adoption of an array of technologies helped you, the company, your engineers, as far as building projects goes?
Yeah, so I think adoption is a key point, and early adoption through communication is very, very important. The panel will talk to a company like Bechtel, but also through freight forwarders and insurance companies and trucking companies to see also what's important to them. But Bechtel as an organization feels very well positioned. We've been innovating for a long, long time, and we've taken those years of experience to kind of accelerate and discover and develop and deploy some of those leading industry innovations we've had over the years. We believe the key is to really learn safe, learn fast, and learn forward. If it's not a good idea, we try to expire it before it gets too far along. And if it is a good idea, we want to make sure we have established good internal processes to really test the assumptions we have, to try to integrate it into the business, and then ensure there's a steady stream of diverse ideas, right? It's not all focused just in any one area. And the more opportunity we have to integrate across disciplines is all the more rewarding. We've really taken our goal to try to be as rapid as we can in mature innovation. And we only really want to put things on the projects, even in early adoption, that we feel are mature enough to really. And lastly, just having the ability to talk the language of innovation and some of this technology, not just internally, but with some of those tech companies and client organizations and suppliers that we work with, to really truly understand what are some of the benefits and costs and constraints of these new technologies becomes all the more important for our ability to actually deliver them onto projects.
Well, it's interesting to see such an established company who's known. I would say that Bechtel has a reputation for being maybe somewhat conservative, on projects and being very realistic in their bids, et cetera. And it's an interesting contrast to me to see such a established company with such an openness towards innovative thinking. That's exciting.
We're a risk-focused company, right? We want to make sure that we're realistic with our clients and the expectations they have of us. So I think making sure that innovation and safety and sustainability are all really key subjects for us as a company that you have to deliver on.
Yeah, that's good. So as we look maybe over the last 9 months or so since the outbreak of the pandemic, one thing I'm hearing across the industry is a more open-minded attitude towards more rapidly adopting technology. Is that something that you're seeing? And what is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is really the key subject of the panel we want to talk about. The last couple of months have been unprecedented for how we've been disrupted and uncertainty of a supply chain since COVID-19 pandemic has really started. I think what's amazing of not just what we're doing, but as an industry, how quickly people have responded to some of these challenges. You know, individuals and companies and organizations, and some maybe a little bit slower than others. But I think it's embracing these new concepts. You know, the idea of virtual work for many companies wasn't, you know, a foreign subject that just wasn't even on the table for discussion. And now it's been completely converted into this as a potential in the future, right? How we find creative ways to socialize from a distance and scale some of these ideas into larger projects. You know, I think the collaboration nature of what's going to be required in order to do that is also important. During the time of the pandemic, though, I think the other key thing is that how do you actually get things to get adopted, right? Sometimes it's out of necessity. Sometimes it's it's an interesting, cool subject maybe that people are interested in. But really, you know, our colleagues across the world have tried to really discover and develop and deploy not only high tech, but low tech, in some cases, no tech solutions to some of these constraints we've had with COVID. I think, you know, going back to the subject of our panel, the travel restrictions were probably the key area that really started to get people to think about how we deal with these issues in a different way. And remote expert is one of the ways to do that. It has an impact to insurance, has an impact to shippers. You know, how do you go look at a critical lift if you can't access the port or can't even travel to the country it's in? So I think the subject becomes extremely important to try to figure out new ways to do it. And we feel remote expert is one of them. It's been discussed for a while, but now has a real reason to get implemented.
Right, a reason, and certainly we have the available technology that we've seen from you and others to support a remote expert, right?
Yeah, I think whenever there's, you know, a demand for something, you know, the ingenuity of how it gets delivered becomes welcomed by everybody. And in this case, the cause for the acceleration becomes the catalyst. But you know, using cameras not just for remote expert, but also for things like taking temperatures and smart tracking of people becomes more of a necessity that needs to be considered. So, you know, I think we're probably just scratching the surface of how it helps us as an industry, but potentially opens many other doors for different solutions to be developed through remote expert technology.
Absolutely. So you will have an insurance expert on your panel. You'll have someone from the heavy haul trucking industry. So certainly the technology that we're talking about applies to those transport sectors. We've established it certainly applies to the EPC sector. Where else might we see some of this more advanced technology like the remote expert technology you'll be addressing on November 4th?
Yeah, so I mean, as a company, we've seen it used from a safety perspective already, where a simple concept of an engineer who historically maybe had to go look at something that was high in a structure would have to, you know, be fitted with a safety harness and go through training on how to climb to the top of a structure to look at something. And now, in many cases, they're able to take a drone and fly a drone up and have someone safely on the ground view the same thing they would see if they physically climbed up. So I think we as an industry have probably started to introduce it already. Now it becomes a challenge within the logistics industry. You know, how do we use it? I think another area that becomes important because it potentially carries some liability with it as well is, you know, do the ports, you know, sort of fit structures in place that support this sort of technology. So that way, instead of everyone, you know, maybe having to develop their own solution, can tap into solutions at fixed points and fixed locations. Again, these are topics that I'm sure will have different opinions, but we will try to dig into into a little bit deeper door. I think the overall the more efficient, the more safe we can make things, the better. Obviously, there's even some cost and sustainability benefits that come from not traveling as much, but it also creates some downsides. We call it remote expert, but how do we develop tomorrow's experts 10 years from now if they've never been to a port, they've never seen a situation up close and in person? And I think, back to some of my early development, that's how you learn, right? You get out into the field and you see things firsthand. And so there are some downsides, I think, that we need to discuss as well, that become important topics for the industry to consider, to make sure that, where we may go down in one area, it may increase somewhere else. So I think it's always creating new opportunities and overall driving the direction of the industry.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that is such a good basis for your upcoming session on November 4th at 10 o'clock Central Time. So we'll all look forward to that, and I'm hoping that your group can address a lot of the issues that you've brought up, and get more input from the wider industry. So thank you so much for talking to us today.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Looking forward to it.